those numbers, and who bet? A couple of things I'm going to throw at you because there are mixed messages. First of all, do you agree there's mixed messages coming out right now, depending on who you talk to?
There's like so many weird messages. I can't really figure them out myself.
Okay, so there's a tweet out here that I want you to comment and please clarify, because we took a lot of heat here from critics who say, no, you're blowing it up, making it worse. Ontario saw 700 new cases Monday, but the province's top doctor admits that 36% of them could be false positives. So it's not a problem, apparently.
Okay, this one again. This is a thorn in my side all the time. So I don't want to get deep into statistical woods on this, but this has to do with the fact that in low prevalence environments, like we have now, you get a higher percentage of false positives, especially if you're testing asymptomatic people.
Do they go into the 700 count or no?
Yes, but here's the thing, is that we are not testing randomly. We're testing mostly symptomatic people and people with a reason for being tested. And so that goes out the window statistically. So the actual number of false positives statistically is going to be very, very low. So other factors...
Sorry, just to interrupt. Why would Dr. Williams say something like that if only to confuse the population of Ontario or calm them, or does he not get it? I mean, why say that if it's not going to follow with the context you just gave us?
Well, because he's not a statistician. You know, and
we need to hire one there, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be some false positives without question.
Yeah.
The question is how many are there going to be? And a lot of studies have been done estimating what that number is. Out of UK, they estimate it's like 0.2% are false positives, maybe up to 2%. You know, but definitely not 36%. Like, I could be wrong. We dig more deeply, we may find that to be the case. That's the statistical epidemiology angle. There's also a lab component around the PCR testing, whether the threshold for detection is too low. I don't know about that. I have to consult some of my lab colleagues about that. But in terms of what this means for how we are testing and how that translates into false positives, that's a statistical thing called a positive predictive value that nobody cares about the details, I know. But if we are not testing randomly, then that conclusion goes out the window.
Okay, so bottom line, what is the number that we need to pay attention to?
Well, the incline, the steep rise of cases. Even that 700 is probably due in large part to a backlog of cases that are processed on the same day. They don't necessarily represent a number of cases on that day. But we're seeing a rise, and that's unmistakable. And that rise will eventually manifest as hospitalizations, as we're seeing now, which will impact our lifestyles, right? We won't be able to get elective surgeries. Maybe we're going to have ICU usage. Maybe we're going to have some more deaths.
Health Canada has a press conference today where it's expected they're going to approve the 90-minute results test. Is that a game changer?
I think it is. And again, there's some pushback from some of my colleagues about how that's going to be deployed. And the 90-minute test, it's an antigen test, which has if I get this right, hopefully I get this right, a higher false negative rate.
Okay.
And so it should be used for what we call reassurance testing. You know, people need it to go back to work, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it has to be used in a very sensitive way. Like if you get a negative, you test again to make sure that negative is real. It can't be used for the diagnostic testing. We have diagnostic testing, screening testing, and surveillance testing. And we have different tools for each of those categories. For this rapid test, if I'm right about it, will be used probably as a screening tool or a surveillance tool, not necessarily a diagnostic tool.
Okay, I want you to hear a clip of someone I spoke to this morning. You know him, CEO of CHEO, Alex Munter. He says, never mind the pending COVID-19 wave of new patients, the hospitals are already full. Listen to this.
The bottom line at the moment is that the hospitals are full. We're running at 100% or over in terms of capacity. We're already starting to see cancellation of surgeries in some hospitals due to excessive volume. That's something that doesn't typically happen until the winter. And of course, in addition to that, the hospitals are also, all of us, involved in running testing assessment centers.
Now, what does that say to you?
It says that we've got to take this seriously. Yeah, I mean, it's true the death rates have not increased, and that's great. And they might not still, but they probably will. But the hospitalization usage might in relation to COVID. And so we haven't got enough capacity to buffer that increase, which is why this is serious. If you get sick now, there's a lesser chance of you getting treated for whatever purpose, not just COVID. Ontario hospitals have always run near capacity, really. We tend to use up our capacity.
Yeah.
So nothing surprising here.
Okay, so there's the whole issue about the situation in Quebec right now. They've cracked down. One of the things they've done, We're getting an echo here, but one of the things they've done, Dr. Ray, is that they have said that you can't have gatherings, at your house anymore. So not even the minimum 10. Should we do that?
Wow. I didn't realize I did that.
Yep.
That sounds a little extreme to me. If they're in your bubble, I think that's perfectly fine. These are people you're going to be intimate with anyway. If they're outside your bubble, I see why they're doing it. If you're in crisis mode, it's probably not a wise idea. And they're doing it because people are not showing that they are capable of restraint and of proper behavior. I think it's a step too far. I don't want to intrude on people's personal lives too much. I'd rather have the recognizance on an individual to act in a responsible manner rather than compel them to. But if our numbers keep on climbing like really fast, I think we may have to go on those ways. What we want to avoid is an economic lockdown.
Yes.
And if these things avoid that, then I think they're the right thing to do.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because it's easy to cancel a barbecue with friends and so on, and it's easier to do that than it is to close restaurants, for example. Now, remember, if we got our focus wrong, and other than, say, hey, restaurant sector, you need to close now and allow people to still have, several couples over, say, hey, you can't have couples over for the next month, and we'll continue to be hard on the restaurant sector. But ultimately, what this is to do, see how it's playing out in the next 28 days, for example.
Yeah, that's right. So I think we should, close bars and nightclubs. That's great. I think indoor dining should be restricted, if not highly discouraged. Outdoor dining is fine. Takeout and delivery, it's fine. Keep those restaurants in business as long as we can. And then see how things look. And if things are still looking bad, then we consider impinging upon, what happens at home. But again, do everything we can to keep the economy open, because people can't tolerate that again, I think. We have to have more strategic solutions.
And schools too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Ottawa Public Health releases the top 5 neighborhood pandemic data by neighborhood. Heron, no surprise. Is that important in terms of tackling this as well, as we see where the cases are in the city of Ottawa specifically?
Yeah, it's useful. It allows us to, attach other factors, like, is this a socioeconomic issue? Is it a race issue? Is it a employment sector issue? Because these things tend to be correlated with neighborhood. Of course, people are going to say, well, you live here, but I work in this other part of the city and I walk around all the time. All that is true. These aren't perfect control mechanisms. They are useful data points in a larger strategy.
As we go forward, we're seeing the age group of those who are affected get younger and younger. I think, the bulk of them yesterday, 20 to 39. Is that, it's a win, but is that enough of a win to hold off on a lockdown, given that they're not going to end up likely in hospitals?
Well, recently the proportion of new cases that are amongst the young has diminished, meaning that the proportion of the elderly has increased slightly. So we're already seeing that shift happen. Yeah. I hope it stays in the young. Absolutely, and it might, but it probably won't, because we do not live in a segregated society. Teenagers will live with their parents. Their parents go to see their grandparents. So it's only a matter of time before these cases bleed over into the elderly. But, we may not see that rise in serious cases for a number of reasons. Our better protection of long-term care centers, our better understanding of how to manage the disease. All that is possible. So I don't want to give you a doom and gloom scenario. I'm just saying we should prepare for the worst, and when the best happens, celebrate.
Final question. As we wait decision by the province to possibly go into lockdown, it's a race against the clock, is it not? And how much time do we have before we've passed the point of no return where lockdown is going to be more serious than it would be right now if we're proactive?
Well, if we do serious things now, we can avoid the projected peak that'll happen sometime in October.
We're talking like 1,000 cases a day. Is that true?
Yeah, we're almost there. We have 700 yesterday, right? So that's not unreasonable at this point. But again, the question is, will that bleed over into hospitalizations and death? And it probably will. So if the question is, how much time do we have? I have no idea. But I don't anticipate we're going to do anything draconian until, the horrors at our doorstep, which will be sometime in October if the models are correct. But again, we hope for the best. We hope that we are wrong, right? It's possible that we are wrong. But it's foolish to expect us to be wrong. We should plan for the worst.
Dare I ask, could there be a third wave if we get our handle on this one?
Of course. The waves happen because of human behavior. The disease doesn't magically go away. It'll continue behaving in this wave-like manner until we have a larger immunity plan, like a vaccine, in place.
Well, we're all learning every day, thanks to people like you, Dr. Raywat Deonandan. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
10-17.